Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. We're going to be talking about platform health at Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. But before we get started, I'd like us to introduce ourselves. So I'm Matt Dosberg. I run a team called Digital Innovation and Development. I've been at CIS since 2011, and really what's kept me there is my passion for the mission. You know, working with progressive technology, practices, culture, and just the talented team we're surrounded by. But when I'm not at work, I have my hands full with my 1-year-old and 4-year-old. Here we have Kelly or Paul.
Yeah. Hello. My name is Paul Bessio, and I am a site reliability engineer with USCIS on the DITA team. Before that, I was a Ruby developer, and the transition's been a lot of fun. It's been challenging, but exciting, and looking forward to sharing some of the lessons learned today.
I'm Chris Saunders. I'm a Pivot. I work at Pivotal, and I have on a team of platform architects that help customers like CIS on their platform journey.
Hi everybody, I'm Kelly Walsh. I'm an engagement director out of the New England region. You may wonder why someone from New England is standing on stage with a bunch of folks from Fed. I'm actually helping out this group because I've been part of an engagement director team that's been focusing on how to help clients measure their journey. And we're going to walk you today through one of the exercises we did with this team and how it's been helping them move forward.
Great. So before we get into platform health, we have to understand why a strong platform for our delivery teams is important. And it really ties back to this, the mission of the agency. And some just points of emphasis is we administer the lawful immigration system, efficiently and fairly adjudicating benefits while protecting Americans, securing the homeland, and honoring our values. This is what it's all about at CIS. And you see that everybody's very passionate about this mission there. We have the opportunity to help folks through their immigration journey at CIS while protecting America, and that resonates with everybody at the agency. But before we get into software delivery and platforms, I want to give everybody a sense of the scale and the scope of the challenges at CIS. So I want to give a quick snapshot of what we did in FY 2018. So we processed 8.7 million immigration benefits or receipts. We naturalized 757,000 new citizens last year. We processed over 1 million green card or lawful permanent resident cards. We processed over 2 million employment authorization cards, and we had 37 million new hires verified through our E-Verify program. So this really gives you a sense of the scale of the agency and the volume of work we have coming through the agency at any given year. A particular part of the CIS mission that's very impactful is the Asylum program. Asylum is there for those seeking protection because they are being persecuted or fear of being persecuted for things like race, religion, nationality, membership in a particular social group, political opinion. These are the different types of asylum, but it's a very impactful part of the CIS mission, and really a lot of the mission outcomes we talk through today are in the context of this program. So again, I lead a team, Digital Innovation and Development. It's an in-house federal software development team at CIS. Really a DevOps model there where we have our delivery teams and then we have our platform team all within the DIT organization. We have federal software engineers, federal product managers, federal product designers, and federal platform engineers, all using progressive technology practices like lean product management, human-centered design, XP pair programming, focusing on continuous delivery, continuous improvement, continuous feedback. I really think this is one of the most talented and progressive teams in federal space, but obviously I'm a little biased, but I truly believe that. And we have some DITs in the room here. I saw some of them walk in. Where did they go? Back there, Bobby, Nakemde, Rick, Paul, super talented. I can't say that enough. Okay, so why is a strong platform for software delivery teams important? To really understand that is, let's look at the mission outcomes that these delivery teams partnered with business are able to achieve. In the context of the Asylum program, we have a very talented team called Global. Just this past year, they were able to modernize the case management solution for the Asylum program. And here are some of the results of those efforts. So, just a reduction in processing time or cycle time on, processing benefits. And a lot of this was in the security check space. So an example there is we brought a particular security check down from 5 days to 2.5 hours. It's a 95% reduction. So these are real results. We were able to reduce the cycle time on biometric checks by 92%. We were able to reduce name check processing time by 55%. So real results, reducing processing time. At the end of the day, people get through the process quicker. We're able to, strengthen the integrity of the system and safeguard America. This team was also pretty successful in just achieving operational efficiencies with the business. A lot of these security check improvements really resulted with a $2.3 million cost savings for the agency. We had other cost savings due to automating data entry in other areas of Global. And then just an overall cost avoidance of moving off of our legacy capability, which was a mainframe, to this more modern case management system. It's about $10 million there. So pretty significant cost savings, coupled with our, reducing cycle time, processing time. The other aspect of the team and, being able to achieve these mission outcomes is just our responsiveness, having a strong platform so we can respond. There was an executive order that came out, and we went from concept to feature delivery to production within 5 hours of that coming down to the team, and we were able to respond in a way and react in a way because of the platform, the progressive technology and practices. This wasn't always the state. Last fall, 2018, our platform, our ops team looked significantly different. We were a matrixed ops team with shared responsibilities. We didn't have this concept of a dedicated platform team. We also weren't looking at our platform as a product with a product vision, goals, and looking at our delivery teams as the customers of that product. As a result, we were behind on upgrades. We lacked, all the adequate monitoring we needed, and we were in a constant state of firefighting. So at that point, we partnered with Pivotal, and we said, what can we do to improve this? How can we assess this and figure out a plan to improve this? At this point, Kelly's going to kind of walk you through what that journey looks like.
Thank you very much. Great. So this brings us to journey health markers. And as we talk about these today, I think we really want to go through what are they, why are they meaningful, how can we actually use them to improve? So before we talk about actually assessing the health of your journey, let's just revisit real quickly what these journeys actually are. So when we think about journeys, right, we talk a lot about the 5S outcomes that our customers can get by using the platform. Those are things: speed, scalability, stability, security, and savings, right? And then these journeys really represent what does the progression look like from kind of scaling out your initial successes to getting the most outcomes you can out of that partnership and platform. But these journeys are not easy, right? They take many, many years. They're very complex. And so when you're on that process of figuring out, this entire thing, how do you know where you are? How do you know if you're doing it the right way? We get a lot of questions from our customers on what does good look like? What does good at-scale platform look like from a behavior and capability perspective? So what we think about when we think about journey health markers is that these really help us find out where a client is on their journey and how to help them prioritize where to go next. Today, and then one thing actually, with all of these journeys, right, we actually have a matrix for all three. What we're going to focus on today is platforms, and this is kind of what we ran through with this team here. And when we think about our platform maturity matrix, we basically have our labs platform team come up with a set of behaviors that they've seen across industry best practices, across our hundreds of customers that have scaled with us already, and they compacted that down to 10 capabilities that we really see teams embracing as they're able to be successful. So what we did is came up with a matrix of 1 through 5 for all 10 of these capabilities, and then we work with teams to actually self-assess where they are and how they can get better in the ones that matter the most. So let's take a look at one as an example. Metrics and monitoring, right? So if you kind of look through this matrix here, you can tell that it goes from immature to mature. And as you're noticing on the bottom, number 5 is really continuous improvement, right? You're never done. A platform is never done when you're treating it like a product. So what we really think about with this maturity matrix is it's not a test. It's not saying, here's where I am and should be. It's understanding where you really are and what is going to matter to move you forward. So let's go through how we actually do this. So if we think about how we actually go through this exercise of understanding where you are, we focus on the facilitation aspect. So what we do is we actually get the platform team in a room, the folks that are hands-on keyboard that really understand what's happening on the ground, and we actually put one of the capabilities in front of them at a time. We ask them to take a bunch of stickies, because we're Pivotal and we love stickies, right? And we say, where do you think you are on this 1 through 5? And then on one sticky we say, why are you there? What's going really well? What are you proud of and what has gotten you to this spot? On the other sticky we say, what's blocking you from getting better? What are the key things that you're missing in order to get to the next level and get better outcomes out of the platform? So after we go through all 10 of those, we have this huge board and we say, wow, what do we do with this, right? This is a lot of information. So we make teams prioritize. You cannot get better at all 10 things at once. We find that everyone's always working on too many things at a time. So we force teams to prioritize and say, what are the 3 capabilities that if you got better at them in the next quarter would really move the needle for you? And then from there, we work together and kind of recommend where we could go from a team working on it themselves to working on it with Pivotal. This facilitation is part of the Pivotal partnership. This is a free service that we do as part of account teams and making sure we really understand where our clients are. And it really makes a valuable feedback loop, right? The information we get here feeds back into the product. The information that we get here just makes it so that we are able to help you all be better. So with that, if anyone is interested in doing this with their own teams, reach out to your account teams or reach out to me and we're happy to help you through it. So for now, I'll actually pass this over and they're going to talk about, what did it look like as getting this information for CIS?
So we're going to cover sort of the journey of CIS. And when I first was brought into the team and introduced to the team, they were actually doing a labs engagement, their developers in DC Labs. And I happened to know one of the developers. And one day he walked over to my desk and he's like, hey, is there something going on with the platform right now? I'm like, I'm not sure. He's like, well, what's going on? He's like, we can't push. So I got on the phone, I think, with Paul and Kim D and figured out what was going on. They fixed the issue, and I asked the question, how do you guys know when they can't push? And they're like, well, we get a Slack message from them. So as we all know, that getting a warning from your customer that things are not working is not best practices. So we sort of started at that point. And what we come up with when we did that facilitation exercise, we focused on these various health markers. And we prioritize on those 3. Monitoring metrics is an obvious one, what I just talked about. Emergency response, when there's an emergency, how do we react to it? And then, of course, business continuity and high availability. At the time, I kind of worked with them and we understood they're on 1AZ, and if they had a failure in Amazon, it could be catastrophic for them. So what we come up with after the facilitation exercise are slides like these. And we identify, everyone agrees on the team, Paul and Kimby and everyone, that, hey, this is what needs work, right? This is what's working well. And then sort of here's our recommendations. So for this one, obviously, we don't have a good monitoring solution in place, right? We can work well on that. We can do upgrades better, things like that. And let's get HealthWatch going and get that installed. And then Paul started reading Google's SRE. And we also engaged with them on a dojo to sort of address some of these pains as well and start working through the backlog and doing platform as a product. So we also looked at emergency response, same sort of flow, give recommendations, what's everyone agree on, what's working well, where are we doing good, right? And go from there and start prioritizing these. So those 3 ones we really focus on. And we want to do these in increments over the year. So what happened was we came back last week, 2 weeks ago, and we did another assessment. And what's really interesting here is that the priorities changed completely. They wanted to move more at platform as a product, path to prod, and stay focused on emergency response, right? And I think there's a lot of reasons why that is, and we'll get into that in a minute. So from that perspective, Paul, when you first joined the team, what was sort of the state of the team and the platform for you, from your perspective?
Yeah, well, we inherited a foundation that was manually created and manually updated. So we were always in OpsMan, logged in, making changes through the GUI. we were an apps manager, we were an AWS console, trying to keep the platform stable. So a lot of firefighting. We had minimal backups and a lot of reactionary tendencies, which means mistakes can be made. When you're firefighting that much, you really don't think of anything else but making sure that the platform is up and running. And that's like the bare bones. So those were dark times.
How was the team morale?
It's judging morale is tough to define when you're firefighting all the time. We were effective, we worked hard, but we didn't always work smart. This idea of a platform team was completely foreign. Again, just kind of going through the day, trying to figure out what was wrong. If something came up, developers would let us know. They couldn't CF push, and we didn't have effective monitoring and metrics in place. Team morale, I imagine, was on the lower side, but we were enjoying working with the product. So we knew we had to get to a better place.
Yeah, I think there was a platform operator, Ollie, who I got on the phone with one day, and he's like, these upgrades take forever. And I started walking through with him what he's doing. He's like, well, I have to sit here and hit this button and then wait until it's done 6 hours later. I'm like, okay, we need to start doing some automation so you're not sitting there staring at a screen waiting for this thing to finish. You're getting notified on Slack, hey, it's done, we're good to go.
Right.
So there's definitely some frustration there. Of the 10 dimensions that came out, were there any surprises?
Absolutely. So when we met with you the first time, it was all about stabilizing the platform. It's just getting to a point where we could start thinking about other things. So the priorities are focused on that. The second time we came around, we could really take a look at platform as a product and some of the big priorities that couldn't happen unless we were able to stabilize things. So platform as a product was the biggest one. And as Matt mentioned, branding and having the team focused in on that as well. Path to production and emergency response. And emergency response was just part of wanting to continue what we started in the first go-around.
So that prioritization was very important in terms of what you focus on and getting through the backlog.
Yes, and we noticed immediate benefits. We created a consensus on priorities, and going through this exercise is great because we're mostly a remote team. So oftentimes there are things that do get lost. We having the chance to come together and really get a sense of, oh, I think this is important versus this person thinks this is important. Okay, let's come together, make a decision, and move on. But yeah, again, that platform as a product, the SRE mindset, all those things they were the biggest shift in our team in terms of getting to where we want to be.
So it's safe to assume the exercise was worth it, and potentially you could apply this in other areas that may have nothing to do with the platform.
Absolutely. I mean, you really could. We can take a look at all the things that we brought in are very similar to what developers do every day, and whether that's paired programming, user-centered design, some of the stuff, testing, infrastructure as code that we've sort of inherited from the developers. Knowing that they're our customer, I mean, that was a great mind shift, and it's paying off already.
And I think getting through the backlog exposed a lot of things, right? Like we had this Redis issue for a few weeks. We got on the call with support, and we essentially figured out, oh, we're using IPsec, and we didn't really know that because the documentation up to that point had been somewhat, hit or miss. And as a result of this, now you guys are automating your documentation. Can you walk through that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So we began our platform automation about 6 months ago. So we essentially created concourse pipelines to manage updates on the platform. We paved new foundations with Terraform, and then we have a concourse pipeline that uses CF management to bring over import users and spaces into the existing environments, from the existing environments. So all of that, you have documentation, things are checked in to get, you have an actual backlog in Pivotal Tracker that we can go off of. We didn't really have that before, and every day we start the day in Tracker to see where we've been and where we need to go for the day or for the week. That also frees up time for us to educate our developers on Health Watch and metrics and some other tools available to them, which we couldn't do before because we were always putting out fires. So a lot of benefits by going down the platform automation road.
Awesome. What about branding the platform? What have you guys thought about in that area?
That was a completely new concept, this idea of creating an identity for the team. And that's been a lot of fun. That's kind of not only brought our team together, but we sort of now feel this branding, this partnership we're creating with other parts of Did It to say that we are the platform team, and this is how we're going to provide services to the developers. So it all fits, and that's the big thing that you realize going down this road.
The T-shirts and hoodies are coming.
That's right.
And you guys chose the Alliance,
Yes.
which I believe is a World of Warcraft reference?
Yes, for those gamers out there, that's we decided to go with the Alliance, and because we were a small, diverse team with a wide variety of experiences or expertise, and in the game, there are different groups that come together to try to save the world. So that's what we're going off of.
And so sort of the outcomes now we're getting from the platform perspective is developers do daily releases into production. They're flying at speed. The stability of the platform, it's 0 minutes downtime during patches and upgrades. Hopefully, very soon, you will have 100% automated pipelines, no humans doing upgrades or CVEs or patching. It's all going to be automated through those pipelines. 300 plus containers across multiple environments. They don't take any time to plan security patching. The platform handles that for you. Mm-hmm. And one of the big ones is moving a lot of that functionality using the labs methodologies off the mainframe, and that functionality being put onto this platform has enabled them to save $10 million a year. Mm-hmm. So pretty impressive.
And one thing just to point out real quick, that we were able to once we got on to platform automation, now we can say, okay, our next steps after this, we're going to create SLIs, SLOs, we're going to create error budgets. The previous presentation talked about chaos testing, so all that stuff we want to get into and do, and now we're in a place where we can look at that. So.
Great conversation. So I do want to just highlight that we are hiring federal, product managers, product designers, software engineers, platform engineers. If you're interested in solving very challenging problems, supporting a very impactful mission, I encourage you to come up, talk to us, or reach out directly to me. But again, super talented team. So, but great discussion, everybody. So thank you. And do we have any questions in the room? Yes, sir.
So you started with nobody on your team, correct? And you've got what's your team consist of now?
We have 3 SREs. Now, before, it was sort of a larger collection of infrastructure and architecture, a team, and that team would deal with the requests as they did come in. So, yeah, it would be a hodgepodge of stuff, tickets, and yeah.
Yes, sir.
Can I assume from your presentation that Pivotal platform is FedRAMP?
No. So the way it works for us is they leverage the FedRAMP accreditation of Amazon itself, but our platform is ATO'd by the agency itself on their own accreditation team. So in this case, it does not have a FedRAMP certification for the platform itself, but it is ATO'd by DHS.
At DHS or CIS?
CIS.
Any other question?
How many DLS sites were out
Let's see, we have almost 20. We have 15 to 20 that are running in prod, and then about 10 to 15 in non-prod. We have 3 foundations, and we also have a sandbox environment.
So what is the typical upgrade time?
With the pipelines, it can, I mean, even with the pipeline, it does take a little while. Yeah. But the nice thing is, I mean, it really, I guess it depends, but if you're installing, like, for example, a newer version of PAS, that could be 4 or 5 hours. Yeah.
But no downtime.
No downtime, yeah.
Was there any challenges getting the platform approved for use within the agency?
I mean, we have a larger Did It ongoing authorization, or ATO, that we kind of wrap that into. So that was really our path to using PCF. But it took some time, and we had to put the right controls in place. I know McAfee was a challenge that we worked through, but we worked through the controls closely with our InfoSec team and got to a point where everybody was pretty comfortable with it. And I mean, the value it provides to the Did It team, we're a very fast-paced software development team like that. I think speaks for itself. So, but we spent some time working with the InfoSec team on working through those controls and the different requirements. Yes, sir.
How many developers do you have on the platform, and do you gather feedback from them on a regular basis on how much they're benefiting and enjoying the platform?
Yeah. So we're definitely a very collaborative team using Slack to communicate. That's our primary tool. We're about roughly 200 folks, contract and fed, but that's software developers, product managers, product designers, platform team members.
We're in touch with the developers throughout the day, and as a former developer, I'm more sensitive to their concerns, just because I want to create a good environment for them. But yeah, we have very good relationships, which I think is key.
And just to give some more idea of scale, Digit has over 50 different applications that we provide to CIS, and global is just one example. It just happens to be a pretty high profile example, but we're building stuff throughout the agency, and having a platform like this is critical. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
So you had a chart up there, and you had a mainframe application, and you said you started your journey in 2018. So are you saying within the last year you took that mainframe application and was able to port it over to this platform and eliminate the mainframe within the year?
We built a modernized case management and then decommissioned the mainframe. So that started in, I think, 2017. We were on PCF, but we were firefighting mode. And what we talked about today is just moving from that firefighting ops team on PCF to truly a platform team. But we were still...
So you built a new app and then deconned the old app?
The mainframe, yep, on the delivery side.
And on speed, daily releases to production, can you give me an idea of the number?
For global, they can deploy whenever, and at times we see multiple releases a day. It kind of just depends on what work's coming down, but there isn't a constraint there. It's whenever we need to deploy. But our practice is to deploy rapid iterations as quickly as possible to reduce risk. So we see things going out all the time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Does that mean you have no change control board meetings?
Right. So the way that it works at CIS is basically, it's called a release planning review, RPR, and it basically says, okay, for the next 6 months, what do you think you're going to do? And what are some, consistent things about your team, like technology, platforms, skill sets? But it basically gives us approval to do continuous delivery within that 6 months. And as things will change, new requests, that stuff we just kind of build into the process and document it. But it's not like we have this change control board that says, okay, what are you going to do? We're going to make sure that you deliver all these in these dates. It's much more flexible, and it works. It works really well. Any other questions? Okay, great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.